Welcome to today's video. Today I am molding a skull, or at least the front half of a skull. That way it bakes evenly in the oven. So I am using a little shot glass to kind of fill in the empty space. And I put down a little base just to get started. So there's a little foundation to work off of, and then I just started adding in little facial features, and boy was this tiny little thing hard to sculpt. That nose, I spent like half of the time trying to keep that nose looking decent, like a nose, or I should say a nose hole. This was really fun to sculpt though. I was using a combination of like a wet brush and my fingers and the X-Acto knife and just the blunt end of the paintbrush to smooth and spread out the clay. And it was really fun. I would absolutely do this again. It was so fun just focusing on all the little details, making it look as realistic as possible. Of course, I had a reference, multiple references actually, in front of me the entire time. Okay, not at first, not when I was like putting down all the layers and stuff, but after I put down that first layer, then I pulled up the references so that I could get it accurate. So the whole time that I was sculpting, I had the references up. Anyway, after I finished all this, I was filling in the negative space in the back of it with some hot glue so that I can, you know, flatten that out and turn it into a magnet for my fridge. That's just what I've been doing with everything this week, is just making little magnets so that I can just see them every day. Yeah, stop saying Also, I'm allowing myself to ramble just a little bit because of the length of this video, just so I can fill in a little bit more space. And I mean, you get to hear how I usually talk, not so much edited as heavily. Anyway, so like I said, I was hot gluing the back to freaking flatten it, and somehow it slipped out of my hands at one point, landed on my pinky, and I burned my pinky so bad. So bad. It's the worst I've ever burned myself. So if you're using hot glue, be careful, because it hurts. I started just panicking, like running around the house like, where's the Neosporin? Where's the burn cream? I can't find anything. So all I knew that I could find was the freaking petroleum jelly, which is better than nothing, you know. At least it's a little layer of something. I guess I could have used aloe, maybe. I don't know. Would that help? I bet it would. I probably should have used aloe. Next time I switch out the Band-Aid, I'll use aloe. Probably. I'm gonna double check with Nick, see if he knows where the burn cream is, because this still burns. Not nearly as bad now. You know, it's been like 20 minutes since I freaking burned myself, but my skin just started blistering immediately. Oh, it sucked. Okay, so anyway, moving on. I baked it for a little while, about 20 minutes, give or take, instead of the usual 15. I probably should have done a whole half hour, but I also didn't want it to start cracking. I know if you cook something too long, it can crack. But it was still pretty soft. But, you know, that kind of worked out to my advantage, being a little bit softer. Possibly. I don't really know what this is exactly supposed to feel like when it's fully baked, but I'm very inexperienced with clay. But if it, you know, was a little bit, the texture that it was made it very easy for me to carve off all these extra little bits. I tucked in under the skull a little bit so that you couldn't see the sides looking at it kind of straight on or even from an angle. So in 3D modeling, I think it's beveling. If anybody really knows what that is, maybe I'm the only one that never knew what it was until I got into school, but art school. So anyway, I beveled the back sides so that they were less visible, so it kind of looks like a floating skull. And then painting it was pretty easy, and that was probably the most fun part for me, because I love painting and coloring details. So I did a quick coat of white, a nice thin coat, and then I let that dry. And then I just filled in the darkest areas with black, and I did a little bit of shading. And then I'm gonna go back over it with some more white, and then do a little bit more black touch-ups at the very end. So back to my burn. This has nothing to do with you, but good news and bad news. I was able to grab Nick, and he found some burn relief spray with some aloe in it. It's got lidocaine as well, so that's awesome. But the bad news is that I put Vaseline on it, and Vaseline does not wash off very easily. And my burn really hurts, and I don't want to touch it. So I have a little bit of a predicament. I'm gonna have to like toughen up a little bit here in a minute and put the burn relief spray on it so that it can actually start healing my freaking busted open, blistered, extremely burnt finger. At least it's just my pinky, so it's not like super important. I don't really use my pinky for much, but it's on my left hand. Oh no, I'm not gonna be able to play certain things on my ukulele. Oh, I am so sad all of a sudden. That's okay. Everything happens for a reason. It'll give me a chance to, or an excuse, I should say, to take a break from the uke so that my calluses can form and my fingers can stop hurting. I've never once in my life, in my years, like 6 or 7 years of, you know, messing with hot glue, I have never burned myself this bad. Oh my goodness, just imagine squirting glue directly onto your skin. It hurts so bad. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking about it. So painting this was so fun. I absolutely loved doing detail work. I think it ended up looking really, really good, and I would absolutely do this again. It did take, like, probably close to 4 hours, including all the dry time and stuff, and baking. It would be... like, if I were to sell something like this, it would be a bit pricier than most people would hope, unless it was something, like, much less detailed. Well, and I kind of know what I'm doing now, so it should take a little bit less time, but, I mean, if you're willing to pay for it, you could totally commission me to do something like this, if you want. I'm totally down for that. Otherwise, I would totally recommend doing something like this yourself. It is very, very fun and rewarding, and definitely use references. Very important. If you do this yourself, keep in mind that the bigger your work is, the easier it is to do the details, because they're not as tiny. I didn't actually expect to get this detailed, honestly. I hope you enjoyed this video though. I hope you have a wonderful day, and happy crafting, and don't burn yourself.